Hey, well, welcome to another wonderful episode of Power Surge Empowering Journeys with Dr. K. And this is where we share stories of inspiration and give you something to talk about and something to think about and inspire you as well. Today, I am so excited. I was introduced, a couple of days ago to gold. This man is golden. And when I was introduced to him, I was like, oh my gosh, I have now arrived. So I've arrived because I can now say that I know the one and only Jim Cathcart, who is a musician, an author, a speaker, of course, a family man and a traveler, and he owns Cathcart Institute. Let's welcome in Jim to our talk. Hey, Jim, how are
Wow,
you?
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Karen. I appreciate that. And it's exciting to be with you.
Yeah, feel free to call me Karen. Doctor's what I did. Karen is who I am. So,
Okay.
so I'm excited to hear about your journey and some of the things that we've done. And I know we love the cowboy stuff, and you're now a Texan, and I love that. Woohoo!
Yeah,
But tell us a
absolutely.
little bit about your story.
Born.
Yeah.
Well, I I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I spent the first 22 years of my life. Actually 28 years. And then I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma for 6 for a job. And after that, moved to California. And I lived in La Jolla, San Diego, for 20 years, Thousand Oaks for 18 years, and then moved to Texas back in 2020. And we've been in Austin, Texas ever since. And I love being a Texan. In fact, when I got here, I said, okay, I want to become a Texan. And everybody said, so what does that mean? And I said, well, let's find out. So I got a book on, are you really a Texan? And I went to all these local websites and sources that told you if you were really a native, you would know or have done the following. Well, that
Uh-huh.
became my bucket list. So I started doing all those things. And since I've been here in only 4 years, I've been to high school and college football games. I've been to the University of Texas. I've been to the state fair. I've been to rodeos and bull riding. I've rafted on the rivers. I've been skiing on the lakes. Let's see. I've gone just about everywhere they serve food that's unique to Texas, which would be barbecue and chili in that order. Chili without beans. And
But have you barbecued?
yep, and I play the guitar and sing professionally as a side gig, and so I've performed in a lot of the classic honky tonks. Like our favorite one is called Hudson's on Mercer Street in Dripping Springs. Dripping Springs is a bedroom community of Austin. And I've been at Saxon's Pub and the Broken Spoke and a lot of those classic places. Well, I did a Facebook post
Uh-huh.
saying, am I a true Texan yet? And it ended up being like 11 pages long. And
Holy
people are
cats.
commenting, they're saying, oh my word, I've lived here all my life and I haven't done all these things. And so one of my friends, who's pretty well connected, went to the state House of Representatives,
Yeah.
to the Texas House of Representatives, and said, hey, this is Jim Cathcart's list of what he's done since he got here. He wants to know if he's a Texan yet. And they produced a certificate from Congress in Texas declaring me a true Texan. And it says, Texans are proud of you.
I love
Wow.
that.
So people say, what's with the
Oh,
Western shirt? That's what's with the Western shirt.
there you go.
Yeah,
Well, so can we at some point talk you into singing us one of your wonderful songs?
I could be talked into that.
I think that would be a great way to almost start off the show because we've already started off. So if you wouldn't
Oh,
mind, I
sure.
would love that. Okay, everybody, this is great. We're going to have him sing. I'm going to put the camera just on him because he is awesome.
This isn't my song. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots, ruined your black tie affair. I was the last one to know, the last one to show. I was the last one you thought you'd see there. And I saw the surprise and the fear in his eyes when I took his glass of champagne. And I toasted you, said, honey, we may be through. You'll never hear me complain, 'cause I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowned and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm not big on social graces. I'll slip on down to the oasis, 'cause I got friends in low places. Oh,
Woo!
this Garth Brooks song, but it's
Yeah,
certainly
I
one.
was gonna sing along, and then I thought better.
We live about a mile, no, about 3 miles from the Oasis, which is a very famous
Oh,
restaurant bar on a hillside overlooking Lake Travis. It's just up the road here. It takes us maybe 7 minutes to get there.
oh, wow, that
Yeah,
is so fun.
kind of fun.
Well, I am impressed with all the things you've done in Texas. I don't think I've done that many things counting everywhere around the world I've been. And I know you've been around the world too.
Really?
You've been
Yeah,
doing
I've been
that.
3 complete round the world lecture tours, separate
Wow.
lecture tours over the years. Earliest one was 1984, and the latest
Wow.
one was like 2019 or 2018. Yeah, and uh, I've delivered 3,500 paid convention speeches, and
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So I've been really, really busy over the last 48 years, and I've written 26 books, and all the things that speakers and authors set on their to-do list, their goals for career goals. I've done all that. I've received the highest awards in speaking. I've been the president of the National Speakers Association. I was not a Toastmaster, but I even got the Golden Gavel Award from Toastmasters, joining Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and Walter Cronkite and Nito Cobain and Jeannie Robertson and people like that. Um,
Oh yeah.
I mean, seriously, I've been so blessed. If you look at all of the big lifetime career goals that speakers, people in the personal development field set, I literally have done that. When I was growing up, I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. My dad was a telephone repairman. Mom was a homemaker. My grandfather was an invalid from a stroke for the last 7 years of his life. He speak,
Oh.
didn't speak or move from his hospital bed in our front bedroom. But I thought that was normal. And I had a little sister, and we were in a suburban area, just a little normal, run of the mill, mainstream America, middle class life, having a ball, playing in the woods in the creek, and Dad built me a tree house in the backyard. So it was a great and happy childhood. And we never had money and didn't know anybody that had money, but that didn't matter. We were doing fine. And then one day it occurred to me, I want to make a difference. I want to do something that counts. I want, like, somewhere my name to be on a list of people that mattered, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know what I want to do. So I'd gotten married in 1970. I got married, so I was 23 years old. And a year or so later, we had a new baby at home, my son, Jim Jr. And Paula was working, my wife Paula was working at a bank, making $400 a month, which was pretty good pay. And I was making 525 working at the Urban Renewal Agency, the housing authority. I was a clerk,
Right.
assistant to a man who was not busy. His
Oh
name was
yeah.
Bob Moore, and my job was to help him, and he didn't need help. So I was bored to tears. And I sat there all day. I read books on urban renewal, didn't do it for me. I read the Bible cover to cover at work in 3 months. I had that much downtime. And so I'm sitting there one day and the radio in the next room's playing, and I hear this little 5-minute program called Our Changing World. And the voice of that was Earl Nightingale, the Dean of Personal Motivation.
Yeah.
And what he said that day in 1972 has stuck with me all these years ever since because it changed the direction of my life. So think about this, Karen. Some of the people who listen to your show make life-changing decisions based on what they were inspired by that day. Wow, what a privilege and a blessing we have, and what a responsibility, to be teaching the truth and speaking reality instead of, just selling a bunch of hype. So anyway, that day in 1972, Earl Nightingale said, if you will spend 1 extra hour every day studying your chosen field, in 5 years or less, you'll be a national expert in that field. And I did the math. I thought, no, wait a minute. I'm nobody. I've got no college degree, no money, don't know anybody with money. I don't have any special skills. I wasn't a superior student, wasn't an athlete. So I got nothing going for me other than a loving family and a curious mind.
Yeah.
Hour a day, 5 days, 5 years. That's 50 weeks a year. That would be 1,250 hours. Yeah. If I studied one thing for 1,250 hours, I'd know a lot about it. So I thought,
Right.
okay, what do I want to do? Had no idea. Kept thinking about it day after day. And then one day it hit me. I want to do what that guy does. What guy? The guy on the radio. What does he do? I don't know. But I want to do what he does. I want to help people grow. Problem. I hadn't grown. What am I? You can't lift people to a level you're not on. You could push them maybe, but that, So I'm thinking, all right, if I want to be an expert in the field of personal development, what do I need to do? Well, he told me, spend an extra hour every day studying personal development. So I became a student of human behavior.
Right.
Correction. I became a fanatical student of human behavior. I spent 2 hours, 3 hours a day, entire weekends listening to recordings. Back then it was records and cassettes, and reading books. I read all the classics, Think and Grow Rich, As a Man Thinketh, Power of Positive Thinking, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all those books. I bought Earl Nightingale's audio cassette library.
Yeah.
48 tapes, 36 and 48, and I got the full 48, the big jumbo size. Cost
Yeah.
me $560. Now, my monthly income was
That much.
$555. So that was not a popular decision at home. I arrive at home with this big thing of cassettes, and my wife said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to listen to these and change my life. And so I became, as I mentioned, fanatical about listening to them. Well, every day I'm listening to these cassettes, like every spare minute. If I'm cooking hamburgers on the grill, I'm listening to a cassette on a little portable player. If I'm driving somewhere, I've got the portable player on the seat beside me playing one of Earl Nightingale's messages. And they were all inspiring messages about goal setting and communication and life planning and, all kinds of things like that. Well, at the end of the month, I had this on a 1-month review. The guy said, take this home, listen to them for a month. If at the end of the month you want to bring them back, do it. If not, figure out how to pay for it. So at the end of the month, I'm going to take them back to Harold Gash, the guy that sold them. And I'm packaging them up. And my wife says, you don't want to take them back, do you? I said, no. She said, why don't you keep them? Because Karen, she had seen enough change in me in 30 days. She didn't want to go back to the old me. Because the old me was 52 pounds overweight, smoking 2 packs a day, and she had to drag me to a sitting position every morning to get me to go to work. So I was unmotivated. I was basically a likable loser, right? And
Oh,
and then I get these cassettes and I listen to them and I start becoming proactive and positive and optimistic and curious. And I start reading and I start writing goals down and working on projects. I joined the JC's, Junior Chamber of Commerce, which was real big back then, 350,000 members. And I joined a local chapter as a brand new member. And in the next 2 years, wait for it, I went to 400 JC's meetings. It's like Kiwanis or Lions. I went to
wow. Yeah.
400 of those meetings in 2 years after working on weekends for free. All the while listening to these recordings every day. And the reason I got active in the JC was at that time, JC's purpose was leadership training through community service. Whereas Lions is community service, Optimist community service, Rotary, that sort of thing. But JC's was different. It was for young people only. And it was to teach them goal setting and communication and public speaking and how to run meetings. So I read everything they had. I went to every workshop they had. I attended every convention they had in the state of Arkansas. And I went from brand new member to member of the local board of directors, which was no big deal. All you had to do was say, I'll do it. To chair of 2 or 3 different committees, to district director, to state chairman in charge of leadership training. And I visited all 280 chapters in the state. And I started winning awards, first time in my life. I never even got awards or certificates in school. And 2 years later, the United States JC's national headquarters called me and said, would you come to Tulsa and become senior program manager of the leadership training programs for all 356,000 members?
Okay, I got to stop you there. First off, wow. Wow, wow, wow. And second off, I want to point out to our audience, you didn't just listen because I grew up, it was required reading all of those books and people that you talked about. Think and Grow Rich, I probably read it 20 times before I was 18.
Think
Yeah.
rich.
Yeah. Positive. Yeah. As a man thinketh. Yeah.
People. All of these are original editions.
Yeah. We that was required reading at my house. Earl Nightingale. We had the whole set. You name it, we did those things. And I'm the 6th of 8 children. All of us were required to do those things.
No wonder you turned out so well.
But I'm the only one that took action on it. Now, I'm not saying that I took action like you did, because I did not. And that's why you're where you are and I'm not quite there.
About it, but yeah.
But you got to take action. My family has definitely improved their lives just by reading and listening. But folks, that's not enough. You got to take action so
Absolutely.
that you're actively involved in the things that you're learning. And so I wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you. The people that were around me, they couldn't believe how much I had changed. And my circle of friends changed because the people I'd been hanging out with were the kind of people I was. People without much ambition. They were nice people and we're still friends, but they weren't going anywhere rapidly, and I wanted to. So I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to feel like I was somebody that mattered. And
Right.
This gave me an avenue. So I became fanatically involved. And then about, maybe 6 months into listening to those cassettes, I left the housing authority and went to work selling Earl Nightingale's recordings door to door to businesses. So in 1974, I was selling Earl Nightingale's recordings. And then I got that job at the USJC's headquarters. And by the way, while I was there, this is my business card from the JC's headquarters back then.
Wow. Yeah.
individual development program manager. And what I did, the reason I have this card is I've got several of them. And on the back of them, I put the little affirmations or tasks that I wanted to develop in myself. So I would write
Oh,
something on the back, and you can see it's weathered from age. But all of
yeah.
these, each one of these, I would put one on my bathroom mirror. So every morning I saw it. And then later I rewrote them, still on the back of the JC's business card, but I rewrote them. And you can see they've been discolored over the years.
Yeah.
This is one. Total honesty, qualities I wanted in myself.
Right.
Total honesty, and remember the law of compensation, meaning what you put out there, you're going to get back. Patient, all are perfect for their level of development, so speak well of everyone.
Wow.
Observant, notice the little details, remember names and special events. So these were the things: inspiring, believe in people, enjoy them, help them find reasons to like themselves. These were the things I would see up on my bathroom mirror each day.
Yeah.
And I would keep a set in the office as well. So I saw it at my desk. And I kept working on cultivating these qualities, which I still work on to this day, because you're never done on things like that.
Never.
But man, did my world transform. So I was at the JC's headquarters for 2 years, wrote some training manuals, flew around the country giving speeches at conventions, and led lots of meetings, training other people. 1979 or 77, I left the JC's and went out on my own, speaking and doing seminars. My first client was an insurance agency, Mass Mutual of Tulsa. And I was able to move in with them. So I had an office, a conference room, and all that. And that allowed me to launch my career as a professional speaker and author. So met Dr. Tony Alessandra in 1979 in San Diego. He was a college professor, and he was teaching marketing. And we were both speaking at a Century 21 real estate conference in San Diego. And that's when he said, "So what do you do for a living?" And I said, "Speak." You're a speaker? I said, "Yeah, speaker, trainer, author. I write articles." And he said, "Wow, what does that pay?" At the time, $1,000 a speech. And he said, "How many a year?" 120. He said, "Oh my gosh, that's 120,000. I said, "I know." He said, "Well, I'm making like 28,000 as a college professor. I'll tell you what, I want to do what you do. If you'll teach me your business, I'll teach you marketing." I said, "Done." So we shook hands and formed a corporation, Cathcart Alessandra and Associates. I won the coin toss. And I moved to California. And we threw in together one checkbook, one set of files, and marketed our company for those 5 years and achieved every goal we'd ever set. One day, 1984, I'm in La Jolla, California, in our office near the beach. Tony's across the room from me, and the phone rings. So I pick it up. And the voice says, "Hello, this is Earl Nightingale." Now, I thought this was a recording like I'd heard on the radio, because that's how he started his
Yeah.
show. And I said, which means, "This is Jim Cathcart. How may I help you?" Because I was completely overwhelmed, Karen. And I said, and he said, "May I speak to Jim Cathcart?" What's my name? And I said, "That's me." And he said, "Well, Mr. Cathcart, I read an article of yours in a magazine the other day, and I think it would be a good audio cassette program." And I said, "Well, the one you read about is an audio cassette program that I did with my partner." He said, "Send it to me. We publish those." I said, "Oh, believe me, I know." So I sent it to him. To shorten the story, that was 1984. He said, "Go back in the studio and record it to our specifications, and we will publish it." Nightingale Conant Corporation published Relationship Strategies for Dealing with the Differences in People by Jim Cathcart and Tony Alessandra in 1984. And in 84 and 85, they sold $3.5 million worth of that album worldwide.
Wow.
That was the first audio album ever produced anywhere by anybody on the subject of personality types. There were training
That's
programs,
amazing.
and there were books that, that like Carl Jung's book, but nobody had put it into a training program that was that easy to learn until Tony and me in 1984. And of course, it took off like a rocket. Well, now that's what Tony does for a living. His company, assessments24x7.com, produces the assessments for personality type that are private labeled by Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Dale Carnegie Courses, Human Resources Press, Action Coach International, all kinds of people all over the world. Wow. I mean, to think all that possible. So let's just review for a second. Okay, boys and girls, let's review. 1972, I hear Earl Nightingale on the radio in the next room, like by accident. Okay. 1974, I go to work selling his recordings door to door to businesses in Little Rock, Arkansas. 10 years later, 1984, he calls me and subsequently publishes my audio cassette program and sells $3.5 million worth worldwide. What? You mean that's humanly possible? Now, fast forward yet again, 1989, I was the president of the National Speakers Association. I called Earl and I said, "Sir, would you do me the honor of joining me on stage at the National Speakers Convention in front of 2,000 of our peers, our colleagues, and let me interview you about the growth of the personal development industry?" And he said, "I might." And might was because it was not paid. It was a freebie. He said, "I'd like to do it, but if I get a paid gig, I have to say yes to it." And I said, "I understand." So it's tentative. So I call in May to confirm the July engagement. And his wife, Diana, said, "Jim, Earl passed away." Oh. She said, "We're not going to have a funeral. We had a service here at our home and spread his ashes. But I would like very much to hold a memorial service for Earl among his people, which is you. Can we hold one at the National Speakers Convention?" I said, "We would be honored. Absolutely." She said, "I want you to speak at that memorial." I said, No, I'm not worthy. Seriously. This is not modesty. It's just the truth. I said, "This was Earl freaking Nightingale. It should be world leaders and captains of industry and top selling authors and people like that." She said, "Wrong." She said, "Jim, you are the product of what he was teaching. You are what he was trying to produce through each of those recordings. And you practiced it to the nth degree and made it work. So I want you to speak at his memorial service." So at Earl Nightingale's memorial service, in front of his son, David Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, and hundreds of his colleagues, my colleagues as well, the only two speakers at his memorial were his widow and me.
Wow.
The most profound honor of my entire career. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So consider for a minute that you're sitting at home and listening to this, and you haven't done anything noteworthy in your life yet, or at least from your point of view. And you're thinking, I want to make a difference. I want to matter. And you take one of these ideas that we've been discussing here for the last few minutes, and you say, "I'm going to do that in my life. I wonder how well it could pay off." Well, consider, I don't have a high IQ. I've written 26 books. I wrote the sales IQ assessment. So I even wrote a test on sales IQ. I I've never been an athlete until I got into my 60s and started doing mountain trail running. And so I've been very athletic since then. But prior to that, not athletic. I was overweight. I used to smoke. I was I had a tiny little worldview, a run of the mill, ordinary, normal point of view. And my views toward myself was, I'm nobody. And I started listening to these recordings and taking what I read seriously and applying it in my life little by little. And slowly I got involved in a local group, and then I was asked to chair a committee, and that worked. And they asked me to do it again, and I became elected to, a local office, and then a district office and a regional office, and then made state chairman, driving all over the state, doing free volunteer workshops, following somebody else's workbook 400 times in a 2-year period. And now I've done 3,500 convention speeches to as many as 13,800 people. And I've been in 25 major cities in China, speaking for 6 hours a day to 3,000 people at a time through an interpreter. I've been to South America, 10 times to Australia, all over Europe, 26 books. Give me a what? That's really possible? Yeah, that's really possible.
Yeah.
And what I do today is I mentor people who want to go pro, want to become a leading authority in their field. Doesn't have to be in my field. It could be in plumbing. It could be in whatever field a person wants to specialize in. I'm a mentor to experts who want to reach the top 1% of their field. That's the book over my shoulder, Mentor Minutes. Whoops, there it is. It's on the shelf back here. That book is 336 one-minute ideas on how to reach the top 1% of your field. So that's my whole specialty today, and I hold a summit for experts where I work with them all in small groups to make transcendent breakthroughs. Whew.
So Jace put up you've got Jim,
Yeah,
you don't have
two
Jim,
separate
you've got
links here.
two separate links, Cathcart.com summit and Cathcart.com expert.
Yeah.
And you should be able to remember that. Cathcart.
Yeah, you
Jim
don't have to
Cathcart.
remember the HTTPS:// Just remember my last
Cathcart.com
/
and then summit.
Yeah.
Or expert. And I would say do both.
Yeah. And you can watch videos on there. Actually the website's just Cathcart.com. And so people can go there, and it's real no-brainer, simple what to do and what's there. I'll show you an example on the phone. So when you get there, you see a picture of me posing the question, are you an expert? Well, let's leverage your expertise for more profit. And then here's a video to watch, 3-minute video. And then there's all kinds of things you can do for free, things you can do for retaining me, it's lots. But, this blows people's minds. I'm 77 years old. Okay.
No.
So I was born in 1946. And when I was doing a goal setting exercise in 1974 in Little Rock, Arkansas, while I was a clerk at the Housing Authority, I was at a weekend seminar, doing a goal setting exercise. And at the end of the goal setting exercise, they said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a national expert in the field of personal development. Okay. When do you expect to retire? And I wrote, never. And that's still my answer. As long as my brain and my mouth will work, I intend to keep going at this, because I can't imagine a better use of my life than helping other people grow. That's what Earl Nightingale did for me, and I want to pay it forward.
Oh, I love that. And I concur.
Thank you.
People are like, Karen, you're in your 60s. You should reach. And I'm like, why?
Right.
What would I do? I'd be bored silly. I mean, why?
Exactly.
There's people in the world to help and touch still. So I get inspired by you with that very thing. So you're my
Thank
Earl
you.
Nightingale, and so that is awesome.
Thank you.
And Jim, I want to ask. I mean, you read some of the great books.
Yeah.
You listened to and hobnobbed with the greats of the greats. I have to ask. So, did you know Jim Rohn?
Yeah. Jim
I
Rohn and
love.
I and Tony Alessandro were all three inducted into the Speaker Hall of Fame together in 1985. There were five people. There are five people a year inducted, and we were three of the five in the year 1985 at the JW Marriott in Washington D.C. I've known
Yeah.
and worked with Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, W.
No.
Clement Stone, Og Mandino.
No.
It just goes.
The whole list of
Dennis
them.
Waitley, Tom Hopkins, Nito Cobain, um, name
Yeah,
them.
all of them.
Yeah,
See, they're all wonderful. I mentioned Jim because, in addition to being a speaker, a coach, etc., I'm a certified hypnotherapist,
oh,
and
yeah,
and I do stage hypnosis, which is fun. But yeah, I don't sing, but I do that. But it was the cadence in his voice that got me interested
oh, yeah,
in hypnotherapy, because he had such an interesting cadence, and he actually hypnotized you while he was speaking, and so the positivity was just really going in there.
yeah.
And I know you have done the same for years and years for your audience, and I applaud you on that.
Thank
And
you.
was it 25 books, did you say?
26, actually
20
27 is going to be coming out
27.
soon. But
Okay, so what's the next one coming out, and when can we expect
the
it?
next one's going to be a quote book. Uh,
Oh, I love that.
these are the most recent of my books. I'm best known for the Acorn Principle and my
Yeah.
book Relationship Selling, but I rewrote Relationship Selling with Victor Antonio this past year, and it came out in 2024. Mentor Minutes, that one came out in 2023. This is a 2023 book that's been endorsed by just about every major speaker you ever heard of. Uh,
Yeah.
it's what to do when you're the speaker. But listen to
Yeah.
the lineup of people who have endorsed this book: Les Brown, Brian Tracy, Michael Reagan, son of Ronald Reagan, Dennis
Yeah,
Waitley,
right.
Nito Cobain, Don Hudson, Tom Hopkins, Dr. Ivan Meisner of BNI, Steve Spangler, science guy, Shep Hyken, Jason Dorsey, Scott McCain, Mark Hunter, David Everin, let's see, Tom Ziegler, Matthew Pollard, Howard Partridge, Michael Butler, Tim Gard. I mean, it just goes on and on. Hall of Fame people. And then Intelligent
Yeah.
Curiosity, I wrote with Lisa Patrick, who's out of
Wow.
Canada, and she's a former private detective. So that made a really good combination when we wrote Intelligent Curiosity.
Okay. I need you to hold them up slowly because I want everybody to write those down. In
Okay, well,
fact,
they don't need
Jace,
to. They can go to cathcart.com,
there you go.
books.
Books.
It's up in the menu at the top of the page.
All right.
And they
So
click on it,
cathcart.com.
takes them to Amazon, and they can pick and choose whichever
Oh,
one they want.
fabulous. I always tell people you should pick at a minimum of 3. I like to pick at least 10, but you should.
Good for
Thank
you.
you so much, Jace. Jace is my VA, and he's awesome. Everybody wave at Jace.
There you
Hello.
go.
So cathcart.com books,
Yep.
but I tell people they should have at least 3. I prefer that they have 10 new books every year that they read and study and get inspired by and take action on.
If they
And
want one to give to like their children or to their workers, Mentor Minutes is written ideally for that. Mentor Minutes, you notice minutes.
yeah,
Every idea in this book takes only 1 minute to read, and there's
oh,
336 of them. Give me a number between 200 and 220.
217.
Okay. 217. There's 219. Let's go back a little bit. Future factors. This is going to take 1 minute. When you see the big picture of what's coming, you're better able to make its effect work for you rather than against you. Learn to continually scan your world to assess the current reality, then explore the future possibilities. I regularly read Futurist magazine and Daniel Burris's Techno Trends newsletter for that purpose. I want to know what's coming in many fields, not just mine. I also want to learn about the strategic issues that will affect me. In his book, Leading in Fast Time, futurist Leland Russell says knowing your options begins with knowing what's coming. So that's the nature of this book. And
I love that.
My grandkids, I wrote it for them, really, even
Yeah.
though I wrote it for a business application. I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, Jason, Amber, what, Grandpa? 75. And they go to the book and look at 75. I don't know what 75 is off the top of my head, but it just randomly get them to explore this, and they find all kinds of cool stuff in there.
I love that. Okay, so everybody, your number one book for this year, Mentor Minutes. I'm going to get it, by the way. I'm surprised I don't ever already have it. So Mentor Minutes and number one book. And you've got a bunch of other ones, but if you were to tell us another book that maybe isn't yours that inspired you this year, what would it be?
Well, if you look at the classics, they're worth rereading, the ones that we talked about before. I think early in my life, one that inspired me even more than the others, because it was so readable, was Zig Ziglar's See You at the Top, which was originally titled Biscuits, Fleas, and Pump Handles. But that didn't sell very well. He had the books himself. And then he retitled it See You at the Top. Zig was a good friend of mine, and I knew him over the years and sat in meetings with him. Went to church with him and his wife, Jean, one time in Dallas. His son, Tom, hired me to come to the Ziglar Learning Corporation and be the keynote speaker for their people. And just a very, very special guy.
Now, I got to age Zig a little bit. I didn't meet most of the greats that you know.
Right. Most people.
However, Zig Ziglar spoke at an event that my dad was part of, the putting it together when I was 6 years old. Wow. And I was a speaker at that event. 2,500 people in the audience. I'm 6 years old, and I go on after Zig Ziglar. Wow. I thought I had died and gone to heaven, and I was 6 years old and didn't know. I had no concept. I thought I died and gone to heaven, but had no concept. And today I look at that and I say, I'm ashamed, all of you. I'm saying this honestly, and I'm not trying to disrespect myself or anyone else. I am ashamed I didn't become a fanatic like Jim and do all of the things that he did. And I'm begging all of you to pick one thing you want to do better and then take action on it. Read the books about it, listen to the audios, and today watch the YouTube
and
shows.
If you're sitting there thinking, but I don't know what I want to do, get the book Mentor Minutes, and it'll guide you through that process. Because one of the steps in there is determining what does the future you look like, and it guides you through a very specific sequence of decisions that help you clarify what you want to do. By the way, what was the group? The 2,500 people.
It was an Amway convention.
Wow. I've only spoken at one. It was in Sacramento. There were 7,500 people, and every single one of them had a copy of my book, The Acorn Principle. I signed autographs until my arm was.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah,
Wow.
that was in Anaheim. I spoke at that one, and then I actually, as a high school student, sang at one of them. But it wasn't as quite as large of a group. It wasn't
Still,
7,500 people, that's for sure.
still, that's
But
people. Good for
I
you.
so yeah, I was fortunate. I was born with the mic in my hand, and people say, "Didn't that hurt your mother?" And I'm like, "Well, probably," uh, but I was born with the mic in my hand.
Yep.
And today I don't do as much speaking. COVID kind of put that an end to that to me, but I. I just tell you what, folks, you can accomplish anything.
That's right.
You've got to do the reading, you got to listen, you got to study,
Tiny
and
little things every day.
little things. You put something on your mirror and just work toward that. And you can do one, add another. Um, and it's not about me. The show's about you. But I want to share one thing that I preach on a regular basis. One, I don't like New Year's resolutions because people make them and know they're going to break them. And that just breaks my heart.
It's
Instead,
New
I
Year's
say,
intentions.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, your good intentions. Instead, I say, pick one thing you want to improve on and one thing only. And work on that one thing every day until you feel good about it. And when you feel good about it, pick another thing and work on another thing and keep working on that, the old one, but
Yeah.
work on another thing until you're good at that. And that, to me, instead of giving myself six resolutions, New Year resolutions, I've accomplished a lot more in the upcoming year. And the big one's going to the gym. Everybody says I'm going to go to the gym, and the first 2 months, look at any gym membership. The first 2 months of the year,
Busy.
really the first 6 weeks,
Yeah.
busy, 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 and then the rest of the year it fades off, and there's just those dedicated ones that keep coming.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm not
the big
saying you
part is
can't do them.
not working out at the gym.
Yeah,
It's showing up at the gym.
yeah. The workout's the easy part. Is getting
Sure.
your butt out of bed, into the car, drive to the gym, or if it's close enough, walk to the gym.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that's the hard part. And I know everybody can do it. And Jim, you just gave us some beautiful examples. I love how you said you know, hadn't gone to college, but now you have these college degrees, and it wasn't from
And
going to
actually, I
college.
don't have any college degrees except the honorary business
Yeah,
degree that I was presented by High Point University a year and a half ago.
yeah,
I've received
and
an honorary degree, but I've been I'm an executive MBA professor at California Lutheran School of Management in Thousand Oaks, uh, but no college degree of my own. Yet I've written and published 26 books that are
yeah,
used, many of which are used in colleges.
and I and this is a man who sat in an office, bored to tears, who didn't feel like he had much to offer the world, and here you are at 77, having accomplished every goal you ever set for yourself, and continuing to grow and prosper and inspire the world. And how much more can anyone ask for? You
Exactly.
know, and
And
all of us are
and the
capable.
friendships that come with it
Yes.
make it a true treasure because I didn't know anybody in this field when I started in it. And my circle of friends, like I mentioned, they kind of drifted away because they thought of me as a fanatic, and I was. But the other people who were fanatics said, "Oh, you're like me. Hey, what are you
Yeah.
doing Tuesday afternoon?" And then we started getting together. And now, then, my circle of friends includes the people that you and I were talking about. Luckily,
Right.
I got into this field while all the big, big, big names were still in it,
Yeah.
and they became the people I know. So let
I
me give you a
Yeah.
question for everybody. I'm going to do it musically.
Okay.
But it's a question everybody could be asking themselves every single day. How would the person I'd like to be not somebody else, but the future me. How would the person I'd like to be do what I'm about to do? How would the person I'd like to be do the things I'm about to do? It's much better when you can see from a higher point of view. How would the person I'd like to be do the things I'm about to do? If you want to build a better world, be a better you.
Oh, I love that. I was going to say, leave us with the one word of wisdom, but you just did. I mean, that is a wonderful, be a better you. And that is something all of us can strive for.
There you go.
That is beautiful. Well, I want to thank you so very much for being a guest on the show today.
Oh, it's been a
And
treat.
I loved what you said that you got from Earl Nightingale. Life changing decisions are based on what they hear today. And I want to remind everybody, and I've said this before, so I hope you remember it. Every one of us have a minimum of 6 people looking at us all the time that are saying, I want to be just like them.
Yeah.
And you're having people watch you. Are you the person you want to inspire them, or do you want to grow and be a little bit better every day and inspire them with that little bit better every day? And that is, you take your business cards, take a post-it note. See if I got one here. Take
Yeah.
a post-it note, something, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on your computer, wherever it is you spend time, and read it and work toward that one thing every day. And Jim has been the prime example of what can happen when you do that. And Jim, oh, thank you so very much for being on the show.
Oh, I enjoyed it and I appreciate the privilege.
Yeah. Everybody, I want to remind you, Power Surge on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And don't forget Karenisms on Monday. Yeah, Jim, you can join us in on Karenisms. I just do a little bit of teaching on Mondays. And at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Made that simple so people could remember. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. And Jim, again, mwah. And I say
Mwah.
ciao for now for all of you. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.